What if the reason people don't understand you has nothing to do with your grammar? Most learners spend years memorizing rules, tenses, and vocabulary lists, yet the moment they open their mouth, something still feels off. Here's the shocking truth. Grammar is not the enemy. Translation is. Every single time you think in your own language first and then convert it into English, you lose speed, you lose rhythm, and you lose the natural flow that makes speech sound human. Your brain becomes a translation machine instead of a communication machine. Native speakers don't build sentences word by word. They retrieve entire phrases as one single unit, already packaged and ready to use. That's why they sound fast, smooth, and effortless. While a translator brain sounds slow, robotic, and hesitant, even when every grammar rule is technically correct. This single habit mental translation is the invisible wall between correct English and natural English. Breaking it doesn't happen through more grammar books. It happens by training your brain to think directly in English, even in small, simple thoughts, throughout your entire day. Order your coffee in English inside your head. Plan your day in English inside your head. The goal is not perfection. The goal is speed and instinct. Once your brain stops translating and starts thinking, your speech transforms instantly, and people stop noticing your accent and start noticing your confidence. What if two people could say the exact same sentence, using the exact same words, and one sounds native while the other sounds like a textbook? The difference is something almost nobody teaches connected speech. Native speakers never say words separately. They glue them together, drop sounds, blend endings into beginnings, and compress everything into a smooth, continuous wave of sound. Going to becomes gonna. This isn't lazy speech. It's the actual sound of natural, fluent English. And if you're not doing it, you're unconsciously flagging yourself as a learner, no matter how advanced your vocabulary is. Most students are taught to pronounce every word clearly and separately, which is exactly the opposite of what real conversation sounds like. This creates a painful gap. You can understand grammar rules perfectly, yet you still can't follow a native speaker talking at normal speed because your ear was trained on slow, disconnected, textbook audio. The fix is deceptively simple but incredibly powerful. Stop listening for individual words and start listening for the rhythm, the music, the flow of full sentences. Shadow real conversations. Repeat them out loud, blending your words the same way. Within weeks, your listening sharpens dramatically, and your own speech starts flowing instead of stopping and starting, like a machine translating one word at a time. What if the mistakes you're trying so hard to avoid are actually what make you sound native? Silence terrifies most learners. The moment they need a second to think, panic sets in, and they freeze completely instead of speaking. But here's the part that shocks almost everyone. Native speakers hesitate constantly. They say, well, I mean, like. These aren't flaws. They are natural thinking sounds that keep a conversation alive and human while the brain searches for the next thought. A learner who speaks in perfect, uninterrupted sentences with zero pauses often sounds unnatural, over-rehearsed, almost like a recording, because real, spontaneous human speech is never that clean. Silence, when used correctly, is not weakness. It's confidence. It tells the listener, I'm thinking, stay with me, instead of triggering panic that makes you rush, stumble, and lose your train of thought entirely. The real skill isn't eliminating hesitation. It's learning to hesitate the way natives do, using natural filler sounds and short pauses instead of dead silence or nervous laughter. Practice inserting well, actually, and so naturally into your everyday sentences, even when you already know what you want to say. This single shift changes how people perceive you almost instantly. Suddenly, you're not a foreign speaker struggling for words. You're simply someone thinking out loud, exactly the way every native speaker does every single day without even noticing. What if the words you're studying aren't even the words natives actually use? Here's an uncomfortable truth. Most vocabulary lists are teaching you formal, textbook English that barely appears in real, everyday conversation. You can memorize 1,000 advanced words and still sound stiff, because natural English isn't built on isolated vocabulary. It's built on chunks, collocations, and set phrases that travel together as one unit. Natives don't think, I will utilize this opportunity. They think, I'll take this chance. They don't say, I am experiencing difficulty. They say, I'm having a hard time. The gap between knowing words and knowing how those words actually combine is exactly why so many advanced learners still sound unnatural despite an impressive vocabulary. Real fluency comes from absorbing entire expressions as single blocks, kind of, no big deal, let's see, I guess so, rather than constructing sentences piece by piece from a dictionary. This is shocking for most learners because it means traditional vocabulary study alone will never be enough. The solution is to stop collecting individual words and start collecting phrases directly from real conversations, TV shows, podcasts, and native speech. Write them down as whole chunks, not single words. Practice saying them exactly as they are without breaking them apart. Over time, your speech stops sounding like assembled vocabulary and starts sounding like natural, flowing, authentic English. What if your words are perfect, but your voice is the thing giving you away? Grammar and vocabulary get all the attention, yet intonation, the music of a language, is often the biggest, most ignored gap between a learner and a native speaker. Every language has its own melody, its own rise and fall, its own rhythm of stressed and unstressed syllables. And when you carry your native language's melody into English, something feels instinctively wrong to the listener, even if they can't explain exactly why. English is a stress-timed language. Certain words are hit hard and stretched, while others are compressed and almost swallowed. Ignore this rhythm, and even flawless grammar sounds flat, monotone, or oddly robotic. This is genuinely shocking to most learners because they've spent years focused entirely on words and rules while completely ignoring the melody carrying those words. Listeners react to tone before they even process meaning. A flat, unnatural rhythm creates instant distance, while natural intonation creates instant connection and trust. The fix isn't more grammar study. It's ear training. Listen to native speakers and don't just hear the words, feel the rise, the fall, the stretch, the emphasis. Then mimic it out loud, exaggerating at first if needed. Read sentences aloud like you're performing them, not reciting them. Over time, this musicality becomes automatic, and suddenly, your English doesn't just sound correct. It sounds alive. What if fluency was never about knowledge at all, but about repetition your mouth hasn't done yet? This is the note that changes everything, because it exposes the biggest lie most learners believe, that understanding a rule means you can use it. Your brain can know a grammar rule perfectly and still fail to produce it instantly in real conversation. Because speaking is a physical skill, not just a mental one. It lives in muscle memory, in your tongue, your jaw, your breath. The same way playing piano requires physical repetition, not just musical theory. This is why someone can score highly on a written English test and still freeze completely in a real conversation. Passive knowledge and active speaking skill are two completely different systems, and only one of them gets you talking naturally. The shocking part is that most learners spend 90% of their time reading and listening, and almost no time actually speaking out loud. That imbalance is exactly why progress feels so slow despite years of studying. The fix is uncomfortable, but simple. Speak every single day, even alone, even to yourself, even with imperfect sentences. Say things out loud instead of just reading them silently. Record yourself, replay it, cringe at it, improve it. Every single day you speak, your mouth learns something your brain already knew, but never practiced physically. And that repetition, not more knowledge, is what finally makes English feel natural. What if I told you that the person you admire most for their perfect English isn't actually using perfect grammar at all? What if fluency was never about knowing more rules, but about breaking the ones that are silently holding you back? Right now, somewhere in the world, someone with a smaller vocabulary than you is speaking with more confidence than you ever have. Not because they know more, but because they stopped translating, stopped fearing silence, and started training their mouth instead of just their memory. What if the only thing standing between you and natural, flowing English is not talent, not intelligence, not even time, but 6 simple shifts you've never been taught? By the end of this video, you won't just know what those 6 shifts are. You'll know exactly how to use them, starting today, starting with your very next sentence. So stay with me, because the version of you that speaks naturally, confidently, and fearlessly is closer than you think. What if I told